Hello and welcome. I wanted to do a review today of the Ultrasabers Renegade. Now this is one of the Crossguard sabers from Ultrasabers, one of two models. Actually I guess three. They have a Renegade and then they have two different versions of the Flamberge. I will look at the Renegade as it compares to the Flamberge in the next video, but today I wanted to take a detailed look at the larger of the two. Now usually if you've been watching my videos, you're used to me going through my videos and taking the saber apart. Today I thought I would try something a little bit different. I wanted to do the Renegade review by putting the saber back together again. What we have here is the core of the Renegade, the parts that are wired together. Okay, this specific Renegade that I have has a recharge port and rechargeable batteries, but it is a stunt setup. So here we have the rechargeable batteries. Inside there's a buck puck CoverTech clip right here. So let's go ahead and poke those down in there. Recharge port and a guarded switch. Now one of the interesting things about the Crossguards from Ultrasabers is this rotation mechanism. Now I'm guessing that they do this so that they don't get the wires all twisted up during the installation, but you see that this little thing right here is on a swivel. Another interesting thing about this is you can see that this is not very friendly for MHS, so taking the top portion of a Renegade is a lot harder than taking the top portion of a Flamberge. But this little rotator right here screws into this portion right here. So I'll go ahead and screw that back together. Okay, now there we can still see that everything still swivels, but this joint right here is tight. If you look at the little guides where the claw goes through, you can see the dent from the set screw in the under portion there. There's a hole that goes in through the swivel. All right, when those claws get put on, there's going to be a screw that goes in here and locks this into place. So that's one of the interesting things about the Renegade. When I got this, I was of the impression that I could take those claws off. Unless I'm prepared to put a different screw in there to work as a set screw, and I've got a pretty big one for it, that's not an option. The claws have to stay on or we get some swivel. The nice thing about this is that if I want my activation button sideways, I can do that. If I want it face forward or at a slight angle, I can set it myself. So anyhow, that's the main swivel. The Quillians have their own LED units in there, wired right in. You have the option to get these without these side LED units. I have no idea why anybody in their right mind would do that, but you can get this without these side units. This piece is one solid piece, whereas up at the top, there's an extension. All right, let me go ahead and screw this extension in. Okay. The pommel on a Renegade is a really interesting one. Kind of jagged, but not as much as some other pommels that I've seen. I can actually grab this and it doesn't cut me, but it does have some nice features to it and a decent amount of weight. Let me just put that right back on there. And the emitters are a nice feature of this as well. They have windows. These emitters contain 4 set screws. So while you can see with the LEDs that the bite is not going to be particularly deep on here, it's deep enough and there's enough added support up here that with those 4 set screws, this actually makes for a very stable grip. Let's screw that back in. Screw in the side emitters. All right. Now, the downside of this is how I would prefer for this to look. I'm not a real big fan of the side spikes, and like I said, they are not optional. At this point, though, I can adjust the angle however I see fit. I can have the button straight out. That's actually how I'll do it. It was like that before. There's little grooves in there. All right, so we still have this swivel. Once I get it where I want it, the side spikes slide in a track. You can see this track right here. Slide in and up. Once these side spikes are affixed, you cannot remove this side emitter without taking them back off again. So these are actually kind of hard. This one you can rob from it. These are more difficult to get out. The set screw on this is a different size set screw. It's actually a lot thicker, and it goes in really deep. So in the interest of saving time, I will allow the magic of television to let me put these spikes back on. All right, and here we are back. So with the side spikes back on, here we have the final product of the Renegade. Now this is a massive saber, as you can see. It is a lot larger than the flamberge. These spikes stick out quite a bit. What that means is that when you're using side spikes, the larger side spikes work to your advantage because this eats up a lot of the side spike as opposed to the flamberge, which only has about that much of a bite. The main blade, like I said, has those 4 set screws. Once you get that in and you tighten this down, you tighten these down, you don't have to worry about this thing falling apart during dueling. The flamberge has a tendency for the little emitters to come loose. This one has a much deeper bite. So in some ways it's a more stable saber. This grenade grip is pretty nice here. The downfall of this is the sharp edges. The end bits here on the spikes, and also you can see that track where I put the spike in. There's some left of the track, and these 2 edges right here are very sharp as well. So a few sharp edges, you can cover those up with a bit of customization. The other thing about this is it's not as customizable as some of Ultrasaber's other models. Because I can't remove those side spikes, I'm stuck with them. Because we don't have access to a fully MHS connection here with any degree of ease, I can't really swap out the body part. What I can swap is the pommel and this front emitter right here. The rest of this is kind of locked into where it is unless I get really creative. So the size, the jaggedy edges, and the lack of customization are downfalls. The good side of this thing is that this is a very imposing saber. It is sturdy, and there's nothing else that quite screams, I am a space barbarian, like the Renegade. One of the options that they have with this is a 40-inch blade, and a 40-inch blade on this thing with 8-inch side spikes. I mean, it's massive. It's berserker levels of massive. So if that's the effect that you're going for either costume or for dueling, because again, this is pretty dang stable as long as you keep these points away from you, then the Renegade is a pretty good saber. Otherwise, if you're looking for spinning or dual wield, then you definitely want to go with the flamberge. This is a double-hander right here. This is a massive saber. Hopefully that's been a little bit of help about how these things are put together, how they work, and what you're getting if you get a Renegade. If you've enjoyed this, join me back for the next one where I'll show you the Renegade next to a flamberge and talk about some dueling.